A huge thanks to Brian for sponsoring this video. Good morning, fellow mathematicians. Welcome back to another video. Something completely different was planned for today, but then my camera setup messed everything up. And this is why I had to come up with a different video topic, which actually turned out quite exciting, if I may say so myself. So I was thinking, last time I posted a group theory video, you guys were really excited, got a lot of views. So I was thinking, can I do another abstract algebra exercise? And then I was thinking around, and then I just thought of some structures which could be kind of interesting. And then I got an idea. What about taking a look at rock, papers, and scissors in an abstract algebra sense? And this is exactly what we are going to do today. And this actually turned out to be pretty interesting, if I may say so myself. So we are going to explore the possibilities of rock, paper, scissors today on a ground level in group theory and see how it turns out. And I hope you are going to enjoy the video. By the way, this video has been sponsored by the wonderful people over on Brilliant. So for more information, wait up until the end of the video. They are very cool people having a great service, so check them out. And now we are going to dive right in. Now, at first, we need to define a bunch of things when it comes to rock, papers, and scissors. And I think we are all familiar with the base game. So let me explain once again for those who are not familiar with the base game. So two people stand across of each other and they are going to go xing shang chong, xiang keng pong, rock, paper, scissors. And then they choose which fighter they want to use. For example, this person takes rock, this person takes scissors. Oh. Now, what would happen in real life if you apply a scissor to a rock? Well, the scissor is going to lose, obviously. So this is one of the relationships. Scissors loses to rock. And there are two other relationships that we are going to talk about. So at first, let us draw a little operational table, a so-called Cayley table, and see where this game of rock, scissors, and papers is going to take us overall. But at first, we need to define ourselves an operation on those elements in our set. So our set, we are going to call it G for now, contains of three elements. It contains of rocks, papers, and scissors. This right here is our set. And now we need to define an operation on here. It could be a unitary operation, which wouldn't make any sense because we have two things fighting against each other. So what we could do is we could use a binary operation. We could also use a trinary operation if three people fight against each other. But we're going to keep it simple for now. The rest is left as an exercise for the viewer. Now we are going to define ourselves a binary operation. I'm going to call it circ, which is going to be the following. If we use two things from the group, two elements, A, and we let it fight with B, then this is going to result in something, an outcome. And this outcome is basically a winning symbol. This right here is going to correspond to the winning move symbol whatsoever. So let us do a little example. If we take, for example, scissors, and we are going to use scissors in this binary operation on, for example, paper, then obviously what is going to happen in real life, if you use scissors on paper, then the paper is going to lose. But the outcome is going to be the winning move. So in this scenario, scissors versus paper, scissors is going to win. And it's as easy as this. And we are going to go through all the possible scenarios in the so-called Cayley table as mentioned before. Cayley table is just the table of outcomes where we apply our binary operation on all of those. Now what we could have is rock, papers, and scissors, and we can have RPS once again here. And now we are just going to go through all the possible combinations. Now, on the main diagonal, something really interesting happens, which is a cool structure in abstract algebra. What happens if two people take rock? Then this is what's called a tie. They have a draw. No one is really winning. But what is the winning symbol here? Well, two rocks just make a rock because no one is really winning here. So rock and rock turns into rock once again. The same with paper and paper. Paper is obviously winning because it's a tie, and scissors and scissors, scissor is going to win because it's a tie. Now, let us continue. What happens with rock and paper? The paper encloses the rock, meaning the paper has won. So if we have rock with paper, then we are going to have paper being the winner. And if we have rock with scissors, we talked about this before, the rock is going to be the winner overall. Now, what happens with paper against rock? Really doesn't matter if the person here takes paper or the person here takes paper, the paper takes the cake overall. Paper is going to win against rock. Now, what about rocks versus scissors? Well, we talked about this just now. Rock is going to win. And if we have paper against scissors, then our scissors are going to win. And this Cayley table right here really says a lot about this binary operation, and it's really quite cool if you think about it in the regular sense when it comes to the rational numbers, real numbers, natural numbers. Something like this doesn't pop up with the regular stuff that you use in school, because we have 3 elements in here. Out of the 3 elements, which have the property, if you apply those to themselves, you end up with the elements themselves once again. This is what we call an idempotent in abstract algebra. And in the real numbers, natural numbers, etc., there are only 2 idempotents, namely 0, if we count 0 in the natural numbers, and also 1, because those 2 satisfy the property of 0 squared, so 0 applied to 0 is going to be the element in itself, and 1 times 1 is going to be 1, once again, depending on the operation that you have. But here on this operation, each and every element in our set is going to be an idempotent by itself, which is really cool, and this makes it quite fascinating and interesting to me, to be honest. So we have something called an idempotent, and this idempotent is defined if you apply an element to itself, you are going to end up with the element in itself once again. Or in other words, sum, just write it as a squared is equal to a. In natural numbers and so on only holds for 0 and 1 depending on the operation. Here we have, if we take a look at the Cayley table, all of those being an idempotent, which is really quite cool. There's also something different that you can read out of this Cayley table right here. Namely, our structure that we have right here is abelian. It's commutative. If you take a look at rocks versus paper, this is the same as using paper on rock. It's going to result in the same outcome, namely paper all the time. And this is also a very desirable property, just like being an idempotent. Namely that we have an abelian structure, a commutative structure, which makes things like checking for associativity, distributivity, left and right distributivity, and so on, really, really easy if we have those things bounded in here on our structure. Now, this right here is called being abelian. Our structure is abelian. It's commutative. Left and right abelian, meaning overall it's commutative overall. Okay, so those are very cool things. But what else can we see here? Now, the next thing we could do is we could check for our structure being something like a group, maybe a semigroup. But we should start very, very basically with a so-called magma. Or sometimes it's also called a groupoid, if I'm not mistaken. A magma is just an algebraic structure which has a binary operation which is closed, meaning if we apply an element to another element in this algebraic structure, it's going to be part of the set once again. So no matter which of those we combine, we must land inside our set once again. And this is indeed the case. Really doesn't matter what we use on which one here, from which direction. Every time we end up with an element of our set once again. So meaning overall, our set that we have right here under this binary operation is closed, making our structure being our set, together with the binary operation, a magma. Is a magma. Okay, so we got this done. Now what is the next stronger thing that we could check for? Well, the next thing that makes numbers or algebraic structures work the way we are used to is associativity. And to remember what associativity is, if we have for all elements ABC out of G that A together with B, and then the binary operation used on C is the same as A and then applied B applied to C, if this right here holds for all the elements inside of our binary operation, then it's associative. And if our set or our tuple would be associative, then it would also be called a so-called semigroup, whatever you want to call it. Now, let us check if this is true. And in general, it's kind of hard to check, but if we could find one single counterexample where this doesn't work out, then we would be done already. So let us just use rock, papers, and scissors as ABC. So we are going to check if rock in the binary operation with paper and then all of this in the binary operation with scissors is the same as, so we take rocks as first and then we are going to combine it with P combined S. Now let us just check for that. So associativity means that we need to compute what's in parentheses at first. If we have rock against paper, we are going to get paper out as the result. Now down here, we're going to have papers and scissors at first. This gives us scissors. And immediately you can see something is probably not going to work out here because those are opposite pairs from another. If we have papers against scissors, our winner is going to be scissors. If we have rocks against scissors, rocks is going to be our winner. Meaning those two are sadly not the same. Meaning our operation is not associative, meaning we sadly don't have a semigroup. Since we don't have a semigroup, we also don't have a group overall. So this kind of sucks. We don't have a group here. But there's something in group theory or abstract algebra which kind of makes a magma or semigroup a bit closer to being associative. In magma at least, because by definition a semigroup is already associative. And this is called alternativity. I have written out the definition here. It's a bit fiddly to remember. So what does it mean for something to be alternative? If for all A and B out of our structure G holds that A combined with A at first and then applied to B is the same as A combined with A applied to B, and vice versa. This right here is left alternativity and this right here is right alternativity. It's kind of a weaker associativity, you can say, if this doesn't work out. So we could check if our structure is actually alternative. Now the first thing to remember is that our structure is indeed abelian. It's commutative. So it really doesn't matter if we take this part right here or this part right here. Both are going to end us up with the same one. So we don't really need to check for left or for right because we can just juggle stuff around. Same thing on the other side. If we interchange A with B, we are going to end up with the BA parentheses, and then we can just turn those around and end up with this property down here. So without loss of generality, we can just check for one of those and then we are done. If we can show that the upper one holds, then our whole structure is alternative by definition. So let us just check, shall we? We are going to start with the upper one. Really doesn't matter. And now we need to define ourselves two cases. Now, if we do this in general, we want to show that this holds in general. You can either go through all of the elements in the set or you can do some casework. And we are going to go through two cases. Either if we have case 1, A in the binary operation with B, and we have that A is the winner. Then we are going to look what happens here overall. And case number 2 is what would happen if B were the winner. And if for both equalities holds, that means that this just works out overall. We have an alternative structure. Now let us check. So if we have A on A and then on B, what I want you to notice is that A on A, since all of those elements are idempotents, this right here is just going to be A. So we have A in composition with B. Now we know that A with B is going to end up with a winner A. Now on the other hand, the other side of our equation, we are going to have A binary operation A binary operation B. Now A and B is going to result in A. So this right here is going to be A in composition with A, and A with A, since it's an idempotent, is going to be equal to A. So this right here checks out. A is equal to A. This right here is a true statement for the case that the winner of A and B is going to be A. Now what were to happen if the winner for case number 2 is going to be equal to B? Then we can just modify this a tiny little bit. A with A is going to be A once again, and A with B this time around is going to be B. Now here A with B, this part is going to result in B. And then we have A with B is going to result in B. Hey, that is actually pretty good. So by the structure being abelian, we get left and right alternativity for free, totally for free. And we also check for both cases. It doesn't matter if A wins or B wins, both times the first equation is correct. Meaning our structure isn't associative, it's not a semigroup, but at least it's alternative. At least this does work out. And you could check for other things here too. What you could also do is you could check, even though it's not a group or semigroup, you could see if there is a neutral element in here, in identity. Meaning if you take A with the identity, you are going to get A out once again. The bad thing is that the identity element must be unique. This right here does check out if we combine A, with the symbol in itself. But this only holds if we combine rock with rock, paper with paper, and scissors with scissors. This is not a unique neutral element. I'm terribly sorry. So this doesn't work out, so we don't have a neutral element in here. We also don't have an inverse. You can check for that. Since we don't have a uniquely defined neutral element, we don't have a uniquely defined inverse element for each and every element in here. But you can actually expand the idea of a semigroup where you also don't have an inverse to still an inverse semigroup. And this is a very interesting concept. I did this when I did my bachelor's paper back in the day. I was talking about this a tiny little bit. We can make it kind of semi-inverse. It's not real inverse, but it's kind of a way to expand the idea of not having an inverse to semigroups and also magmas. Let us check if this is an inverse magma overall. It's kind of like the same thing with alternative. Now, if I remember correctly, a semigroup is called an inverse semigroup if for all A element of G, there does exist a uniquely defined B, so for each element. And this right here is a uniquely defined B for each and every one. So we need to define an inverse element for each and every single one, just like we did here with the idempotency a second ago, such that we have, let me see for a second, A in composition with B in composition with A is the same as B, and we have B in composition with A in composition with B is equal to A. If this right here holds for each and every element, such that we can find a unique one, we are going to actually end up with an inverse magma. I have written it down. I don't want to make a mistake. I am just a human, and I haven't done abstract algebra in quite a while. I just want to check for a second. So ABA, no, this must result in A and then B. I'm terribly sorry about that. That seemed fishy for me, kind of a little bit. But really doesn't matter. I want you guys to remember, we just need a uniquely defined B such that this right here holds for each and every element. And trivially, it does. If we let A equal to B, then we are going to get this property up here for completely free. Then we are going to have that A in composition with A in composition with A. Since those are idempotents, each and every element inside our structure, A with A is going to result in A, and then A with A is going to result in A. This is trivially true. And the same thing with B in composition with A is going to be replaced by B. B in composition with B is going to result in B overall, since we all have idempotents in here. So trivially speaking, we have an inverse magma, but this one right here really doesn't make any structural sense or doesn't have any advantages whatsoever, because we just get it for free out of the condition that we have idempotents. And this is what I was talking about when it comes to the real inverse and the neutral element. It just isn't very meaningful in this matter. But the alternativity could actually be something that could be quite useful in the context of isomorphisms, and maybe considering this right here being cyclic or something of the sort. I really haven't looked into that very much when it comes to the cyclic nature of this, but this could be for a different video. But I hope you did enjoy what you have seen here today, and maybe have learned something too. Maybe you have never heard of the alternative feature of algebraic structures before, or maybe you didn't know what an idempotent was. I hope you did learn something today. And if you want to see more mathematics than we did today, group theory, abstract algebra and the like, then the contents of today's sponsor Brilliant might be the perfect fit for you. Abstract algebra is fundamentally hard. It's one of the hardest topics I have covered in university, next to functional analysis and the like. And it's just super hard to wrap your head around things like this. This right here is just basic stuff, just checking for a bunch of properties and the like, drawing tables and so on. But it gets gradually harder the deeper you dive into all of those things like isomorphisms, Galois theory and so on. But it doesn't need to be that way. Even abstract algebra can be accessible if you use things like Brilliant to your advantage. And this is why I want to talk about our today's sponsor a tiny little bit more. With their nearly 70 interactive courses in all topics STEM, be it abstract algebra, calculus, analysis, probability theory and so on. Brilliant covers anything that you could quite possibly think of in the STEM field that you would like to learn today or maybe in the future. And the coolest thing about Brilliant is they don't just throw you into all of this abstract stuff. That comes later. They actually do that too. But they want you to go in there with a very slow start by drawing, for example, or filling out a Cayley table. For example, a Rubik's Cube, or just simple symmetries on a Ferris wheel or whatsoever. It really doesn't matter. Brilliant, what they do is they take tables, graphics, interactive things that you can play around with, and make all of those topics that seem really hard at first way more accessible and way more playful that you could ever imagine. Just take a look at anything of the things that I show you here on screen right now. Doesn't this look extremely appealing? They don't want you to hammer algorithms, constant numbers or whatever into your head. They want you to learn by doing, drag around things, play around with this graphic over here, see if the interior angles add up to 180 degrees by transforming the triangle, and so on and so forth. The list goes on and on and on. Brilliant provides you with some of the best online learning content that you can find out there on the World Wide Web. And I invite you to try it out today with just free access to Brilliant by using my link down there at the top of the description, brilliant.org/fanthemess, or the QR code somewhere up here in the corner. Try it out, try everything out, the whole landscape of Brilliant for completely free. And if you feel like this could turn into a long-term relationship between you and their services, then why not make entire use of the link down there and get 20% off an annual premium subscription, which is an amazing deal. They are adding so much new content on a regular basis, and they are even improving their old courses all the time. It's just wonderful to see where they have went over the years and where they are going to go in the future. It's just overall awesome. Their services are amazing, and I love to promote them here on this channel because their services really mean a lot to me. I have a lot of great uploads here on my channel regarding Brilliant and live streams, and also I recommend it to my students a lot. They are a fantastic team, they have a fantastic service, and they really give something back to the STEM community. So check it out. Just try it out for completely free. Use the link down there and see if it's something for you. And I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you did enjoy today's video. And up until the next video, I wish you guys a fabulous day. See ya!